Hey, good morning. Good morning. It is Saturday morning and it is 7 a.m. Welcome to Disconnection, how to reconnect with ourselves in times of wounding. I'm Andrea, and as you're coming in, I will just give us a little time here to warm up. If you're just waking up, so that is the best time, because I was going to start by saying, I hope you can feel my energy. I call it my morning energy, but it doesn't matter what time I get up. It could be 11, and that my morning energy is when I first wake up. I like that energy. I hope you can feel that energy. People that work with me can feel my energy, and it can be intense. But I love the energy when I first wake up, because that energy keeps me going for 5 or 6 hours into my day. And then I work to keep that energy, that frequency, the way it is. And I don't mean physical energy. I mean a feeling about your body, a way of being, a sense of feeling in your gut or wherever it is in your body. So what do you understand about your frequency? And some people might think it's a circadian rhythm, when we sleep, when we are awake, but what I like to think about is our energetic rhythm. Here's an example. My husband and I are opposites. His energy is best in the nighttime. My energy is best in the daytime. It doesn't matter when I get up, but I feel like in the evening, I've used a lot of that intense energy, and I've been working to grow the times that my energy works so that I can also connect with his best energy time. And I've made a lot of progress in that, just by kind of knowing what my energetic cycle is. I do think that we counterbalance energies and frequencies in our body, and they're different than emotions, and they're different than our thoughts. And sometimes we don't even know that's there until someone, a great coach or a great leader, Brene Brown or Simon Sinek, says, there's this thing, energy. So if you'd like to put in the chat, what is your most common energy? Mine, I'm going to have to say, is typically intense. So I want to welcome you, and I will be paying attention to the chat. And if you want to share at any part, you can certainly join in. And here's a question for you, just again, to reflect back to our energy. What part of day do you have the energy that is the easiest for you, that feels the most aligned for you? And I'd like you to set down, I'm a morning person, I'm a night person. I think those times for us were the most awake and alive, when our energy inside us is most aligned with our actual inner person. So I'd like you to stop thinking about yourself as a morning person or a night person, but start thinking of yourself as an energetic person. So if this is your first time joining or working with me, I'll just define energy in simple terms. It's a way about you. It's a dynamic quality. And dynamic doesn't have a negative or positive charge. It's sweeping, it's in the core, it's in the chest, it's in the gut, it radiates. What kind of energy can you identify in yourself right now? As I mentioned, I work on cultivating this so that I can identify it in me. And I'd love to offer you the same. My name is Andrea Romer. I am a life coach. I work primarily with healthcare professionals, but can work with any human, because isn't that the business we're all in, being human? We are all doing hard things with living. I believe in the power of work, because it's not just about the work we do, the bucket of work. It's actually about the work that goes into us being us and connecting authentically with our life and the work that we do. So when I think about work, there's mental and physical. And right now in the world, I think there's a lot of people that are taking the time to be thoughtful about our beliefs, what we believe about physical work and time working, and the actual work that goes into creating things that are useful in the world. Does that make sense? To me, there is the work of being human. And whenever we're thinking that we will get benefit without the actual work, we're just on a journey. We are learning to be inspired and then take inspired action. And that is where I believe we are at in our world right now, is that we had a lot of inspired action for a lot of generations. Now we're having some inspiration and we're having some regrouping of how we do our work. And then we're going to move back into some inspired action. And we are doing the mental and physical work of what it takes to show up as a human in this world. You can connect with me on my website, on Instagram. You can find me under Andrea Romer Coaching, www.romercoaching.com. And if you are loving this energy already, if you already are thinking, oh man, I might need to do more work on this. I work one-to-one with clients for a roadmap of 6 weeks, 1 hour a week. And we can certainly do a consult. We can talk more about that offline. If you're loving my energy, if you're loving how you feel thinking about this, we can work together. So I'll share with you that I help people live into their possibility. The reason I think that's important for healthcare workers is because it does take energy. It does take someone who understands where you've been and has a process. I have 20 years, 2 decades doing critical care, and I understand the energy that that takes. Now, what we're going to talk about today will reflect on a couple of the times that I've had that are harder and some things that I'm facing now. But what I believe about possibility is that we grow it, we don't know it's there and don't use it, or we kill it. And I like to help you know that wherever you are, that's where you're supposed to be. That's what I help people with. Where are you? What are we going to do about this possibility? Just like I have a patient, just like they have a family and I work with them as a nurse, your possibility is your patient. And we get to decide what we're going to do with that possibility. So, disconnection, reconnecting in times we are wounded. So what I'm not talking about today is I'm not really talking about going back and unpacking the relationship you had with your parents. What I'm talking about is the experience we have of being human, of being big, of being visible, doing the emotional, vulnerable work that we do as humans and healthcare professionals in this world. These are wounds that come with stretching and growing and being visible. Maybe you're already thinking, oh, yes, like being a parent requires visibility. It requires stretching. Being a nurse practitioner, a doctor requires stretching every single shift, every patient interaction. And I don't think we think about that. We just take it into stride how much actual mental and physical work we do. And I want to give you credit for all of that you do. So from my point of view, we take on an energy that requires a visibility and a stretching every time we go to work and we work with people who are going to be facing maybe the worst day or the worst thing they have faced. Doesn't matter where you work in healthcare. That is true. People don't come to healthcare because things are going great for them. It requires you to have this energy to be big and to stretch every day. just to be there, get there, have your skill set, and done your work and go in. And then we think about the vulnerability it takes to go and share that. Then you get to your patient and they're vulnerable. And so you have two paths. You either have done the energy to bring your skill set and your vulnerability in that moment, takes energy, or like, I can't, I've already opened my heart to get here. I can't give my heart today. And so then we close our hearts and we go this way until later when we think about the connection we would like to have had and how we will do it next time. And neither are wrong. It's just two directions of energy. I open my heart to become a nurse, a doctor, a nurse practitioner, a PA, an NA, a nursing assistant, a med tech, an RT, a PA, or a human, or a parent, or a professional, or anything that we do. I open my heart, I give my heart, I keep my heart open, or I close my heart. And what I wanted to talk about was that process, but also when we close our heart, how that can make us feel angry because something happened. Either we didn't get an outcome, we didn't have the mental bandwidth to be more visible, or someone said something or did something that made us mad or hurt. Totally been there. Also, now you're not going to be able to take all of the notes from this. Like, I would really love for you to just be receiving this because you have all of this in your bandwidth and knowledge already. It's just about letting it start to process. You don't even have to be writing it down. As healthcare professionals or humans in the world, we are asked to hold our possibility, to hold our patient's possibility. So we're holding our possibility. Like, I'm brave enough to do this work. I'm good enough to do this work. Our patients are saying, make me better, hold my possibility, hold the vision that I am going to get better. We hold the data of science. We hold our beliefs in what we would or wouldn't want, and we hold theirs. Think of all of those things that you are holding. Maybe you have never thought about your work this way, and it is a completely different way to think about it. But when you think about it this way, it makes so much sense. I know. Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's blowing your mind. I totally get it. Have you ever thought about this? The vulnerability quotient that you have to do the work as a doctor. I see that you're sharing. Yes, like in the 10 patients you might see in a day, my friend. Every time you go in, you're opening your heart, you're giving your heart, you're closing your heart, or you're keeping it open. And whichever pathway you take in that moment is fine, but it's all going to be the mental energy that you're using. Really incredible. You didn't maybe know, and I will just reiterate this, I will say this again. The energy that you use as a healthcare professional is that you hold your possibility. You hold their possibility. They're asking you for the possibility of getting better, asking you for them to hold belief in them. You are holding science and the data. You are holding the belief in yourself and the beliefs about what you would experience with healthcare, and you are holding their beliefs as well. Now, the reason I think that this is really important to start talking about this is we're getting far enough out from COVID that we can look at these experiences as, yeah, this was super traumatic. I've been working through this, but there's also these small pieces in me that were a wounding that, one, this is my up and out, unrooting, untethering. Now, these experiences are going to stay in our body. We're never going to get rid of them because our body and our minds are amazing machines and they remember. But it's the meaning that we make about it that's important. I love being a nurse. I love being around healthcare professionals. I love the profession. I believe that the world derives change and impact from the people that work in healthcare. I'm working to help us highlight these connection points so that they feed us as evidence more than outcomes, because change is slow. Outcomes in healthcare are not amazing, and the juice is in the middle. Why am I doing this? Because the outcomes are not the end result, in my opinion, as the data we track. Those aren't the outcomes that give us the heart experience that we need. And it can be hard to take our mind off of outcomes and find the juice in the middle. And that's what I help people with. I want you to take a minute to think about that. Outcomes are not the end result, in my opinion, which is the data that we track. The outcomes are in how we connect to ourselves and with others in moments. Until we get the opportunity to share the wounding that we've carried with us as the outcome. We don't have to negate this. It doesn't take a lot of work. It just takes talking about it today. You will feel relief. We will go from there. The juice is in the middle for all of us. The work that you do in healthcare can fill your cup, not empty it. If we think about our life as an entire cup, we think about it as fluids that don't immerse in each other. They're just there. I like to think about it as a cup and not a wheel, because I often believe that work fills my cup. The work I do, because I make a big impact in the world, it fills my cup. And some days when I'm on a work stretch, or I know that I'm going to be working with a lot of clients, then the proportion of work liquid in my cup is much bigger. Hey, Ryan. So talking about, we were just catching up on how I believe that work can fill our cup. And work is not always just the physical work that we do. It's actually the work of being human. And so I like to think about my life as an entire cup. Some people think about it as a wheel. And for some of us, work can take up a different proportion at different times. And this is all about different levels of things in our cup and how we get the juice from wherever we are. And how this relates to disconnecting is because when we are reconnecting with ourselves, the wounding actually comes from the human work we do. We're not talking today about unpacking a relationship with our parents or our bestie from when we were 5. We're actually talking about the times in our lives of stretching, of being visible, of doing the hard work that we do. And when it doesn't go well, or we didn't give what we thought we were going to, or someone says words, how we have opened our heart, we have given our heart, and maybe we've had to close our heart because of what's happened. And that's what we're talking about today. I think that people that do hard work in the world bring a vulnerability that we forget is there, that there's a mental exchange of energy in all the work that we do, especially for people that work in visible, vulnerable roles like healthcare professionals. Again, we give an energy to just get to our work every single day. And that's all of us. We give that energy to ourselves to get there. Like, it's possible I'm going to be able to open my heart and be the person I want to be for this work today. And then we get to our work. And people need things from us. They're vulnerable. To meet someone in a vulnerable space, whatever work that you do, you are, that takes energy and intention as well. And especially for doctors and nurses or people in a visible role, what this means is that you have two paths. You've done the vulnerability work to get there. Then you recognize that they are vulnerable. You're seeing them at their worst, or you're seeing them do something hard. And they're like, help me. And so then you either get to meet them in their vulnerability, which takes energy and courage in that moment, or we close our hearts and we go through the motions and we turn that way, which is okay. But then instead of using our energy in that moment, we're going to use our energy on the back end, being like, yeah, that's where I dropped the connection. This is what I was hoping for. And that's where we're reconnecting today with ourselves. Like just taking a look at that, because that can come up in us in certain ways. So for all of you that are here, I'm sure that you do hard work. There's hard work of humaning. Like I was saying, there is a personal part of your cup, which is your life wheel. There's the work part of your cup. And I feel like those levels come and go. Now, for me, the work that I do in the world fills my cup. I've been 2 decades in healthcare. I've been 2 decades in caring for people's bodies and minds, and it fills my cup. But I will tell you that was not always the case. And as I've become an entrepreneur, I'll share with you, I have not been visible. I have a wounding that I have been working through. And I can share with you 2 stories here in a moment that are very personal to me. And I want you to know that as you're listening to this, if there's emotion coming up, that's the whole part of this. Like what I was hoping for today is that you get the opportunity to have some emotion come up in you when you're thinking about something that hasn't worked out. When you're able to know that this is a safe space to let something kind of come up in you that we're not going to let go of, it's going to remain with us. We never like get rid of things. We just understand and bring awareness to them. If you watch a rom-com in the morning or you watch a sad movie and you cry, that is what we want to be able to give to ourselves in moments around where we're wounded, because it helps us stretch and grow more. Because usually we get wounded because we're trying to stretch and grow. And so we want to be able to do that for ourselves intentionally. That's what I help people with. Now, remember, possibility is here for us. It's either stagnant in us, which happens a lot. It either gets killed in us, which happens as soon as we become fucking adults, or we grow it. And that's where I work with people to figure out where we are on that spectrum. So the wounding I'm talking about today is when you put yourself out there and something flops or is taken wrong or doesn't go as planned, or someone close to you says something about your work, or about how you showed up, or about how you looked. And so here's where I have a couple stories for me. I think that in my entrepreneurial life, which is working with you guys as a coach, which I'm doing today, I did a talk 2 years ago, and it was big for me. It was one of the first ones that I did. It was a big audience, and it was really important time for me in COVID. And it was terrible. And maybe you can feel my emotion coming up. Like the feedback I got was not good. It was not good. And it wasn't that I was bad, but I'm still working through actually continuing to be visible in my work because of that. And it's just that I haven't had the bandwidth to look at it yet. And now I get to be there. And so I have been angry for a while. What I love about anger, I want you to think about somewhere that you might be angry, is that it's a driving emotion. It makes us take, like, anger has made me take a lot of action, and that's good. It has driven me. But if I can really stop and have an honest moment, which I'm really asking of all of you today, is that under anger is sadness. And this gives you language to talk to other people about this, whether you're a unit leader, whether you have a partner or a spouse, whether you have children. This gives you language. You don't need a lot of time to be diving into this. You just get to have language to talk about it with yourself and others. I am sad because, and that's really all I need you to answer today. I am sad because I have been unwilling to get to a place where someone would say something about my work, because the only way I learn is if I get feedback that shows me something. If I'm willing to go far enough to have someone give me feedback. And I was brave enough in those moments in 2022 to go do that big talk. And I was brave enough to put myself out there, but I was not brave enough to hear what was going to take me to the next step. And I could woulda, coulda, shoulda that all day long. Like, what would I have done if I had closed that gap and just continued to really grow in those moments? That's not where I'm at. I'm able to feel emotional about it and feel like I can still do that. I can hold this space for myself. And that's what I want for all of you today. How that's shown up for me as a nurse in a couple ways. One time for me was probably about 14 years ago, when I was taking care of a critically ill patient who had a family that hadn't seen them yet, and they were having a bedside type surgery that was sterile. And I said, no, you can't see them. But it wasn't about the words I said. It was about the energy that I used. And that person pushed me. And I know, and it's bringing up emotion in me now because I was wrong. It was my energy that did that. And as nurses, I have unpacked and worked with so many nurses to understand the difference between violence and where we set boundaries. And that wasn't, and it was me not understanding the things I needed to understand as a nurse. It was me protecting my heart. It was me opening my heart to that hard patient, which I could do at that time. It was me giving my heart to that patient. It was me closing my heart to that family. And when I did that, that's what happened. And it has taught me a lesson that I will never, ever forget. And it's not bringing up emotion in me because I am sad. It has been a grounding, jumping off point for me for my career. And I'm so thankful that I never, ever lead with a no. And so if you are starting to think about times in you that you had opened your heart, gave it, and you closed it, if this is coming up for you, this is okay. This is how we use emotion and energy in our bodies. This is why when you cry at a commercial with a dog on it, this is why you feel better. This is how I get to share vulnerability with all of you. Even the story I told about the talk that I gave, I shared vulnerability in a way that was cognitive. I did not open my heart and give of my heart. And that is okay. And so as we are thinking about where to go with this, I want to offer some questions to follow up with, as not just the statement, I am sad because. I want to offer that if you unpack that this Saturday morning, it will just spending a few minutes with that will give you relief in your body that will guide you through your entire weekend. because we have so many options when we aren't closing down to that, when we're understanding that being visible in the world as a human in any way, shape, or form requires an emotional energy that we aren't always aware of, and that none of it is wrong. And as you have some sadness be acknowledged in you, which to me, when I say I am sad because, it actually makes me feel relief. It makes me feel hopeful. It gives me language to use with other nurses when they need it. It gives me language to use with my children, with my spouse, if I need it. It helps me understand that to let someone, and we have adopted this as nurses, the nurses that I work with, we've adopted this as a peer support situation where when someone's angry, we hold space. We do not join in, we sit adjacent to with love. And that's what I'm asking you to do for yourself today. The reason that has been so helpful for us as a group of nurses is because it allows us to let that anger be there, to use it as a driving emotion if we need it, to move us to another place, like to remove ourselves from that immediate situation, or to change course in that moment, or to seek out another nurse to share with. And then we get to ask that observational question of, or give that observational statement, pardon me, of I am sad because. And I will tell you, the thing I hear the most, I am sad because I didn't show up how I wanted to. Or I am sad because they yelled at me. I think they yelled at me because I did something wrong. And that's all about how we're willing to keep our heart open in those moments, or know when to close our heart and drive the other way and do the mental energy on the other end. So I'm going to give you these last questions. I'm going to offer up a moment of just some silence and reflection so that if I can assist you in any way, I'm happy to do so. You really can't do anything wrong here. And then I know I've been asking you to just listen and contemplate and not write things down. So I will just, because you have this body knowledge, you have these questions, so our world is prepared to do this work. Sometimes we just need to know about who we have to be and how to do it. So I'm going to give us a moment. Pardon my looking down. I'm getting to my questions. If you know me, I'll always be on time, but I do like a little comfortable chaos. So you can share in the chat or not, but I want you to, or just take this question in. What is an area of connection in your life? Those times those connections can often go unnoticed. But as you heard me say before, our outcomes don't always drive what we're really sharing with the world, the good work we're doing. It's the juice in the middle. It's the connections. And it's easy for our brain and body to not pay attention to those connections because we like drama and pain as a brain. So if today you are thinking, my connections with my family are great and I am off for the weekend, so I am going to lean into that, that is what I want you to be doing. I want you to notice how open your heart is, who you give it to. And it seems like it stays open because they give you back what you need, but it stays open because you feel safe. You've created a thought process that says, I'm safe here. They don't have to stretch here. This fuels you for the times when you have to go and use that mental energy, when you open your heart, when it took an open heart to get there, you want to keep it open longer. And for me, as you've heard, even when I was advertising this, my guiding principle in life is I can figure this out by myself. I can do this by myself. I will do this for myself. My parents told me that that was probably my first sentence. And so for me, vulnerability and asking is always the thing where I'm opening my heart. And I will always be growing in that. And so this journey never ends. You will always be vulnerable. But don't let that stop you from leaning into the possibility that is yours, from allowing yourself to be more visible. I'm always teaching my clients to overcorrect. You're going to need to do more. You're going to need to push yourself to that boundary where someone may say something because that's what the world feels like they can do. Love this. Thank you, Ryan. My connections are things like taking family time away from technology. Yes. Well, I love that. Your connections are things like taking family time away from technology. And I think that the driving question from that is how do you get more energy from those connections than the drain from taking the time away? Thanks for offering that. I appreciate it. Well, the next question I have is where do you feel disconnected? What is an area of disconnection? For me, it's the disconnection between the visibility that I'm able to achieve working in critical care as a nurse communicator, working with my clients one-on-one. My disconnection is really being able to be visible in the world. And so as you've already heard me share, that's what I'm working on. Recently, I've heard a lot, and I'm not just making this about me, I'm trying to give examples. Recently, I've heard I'm the best kept secret. And so I've been processing and synthesizing that disconnection and knowing that when I ask and have this observation, I am sad because I've been able to find a lot of answers in myself and support myself through that. There's a lot of data that shows that the two emotions that people are humans, especially healthcare professionals, people that are visible in the world, that are doing work that takes emotional and physical energy, are anger and sadness. The two I'm talking about today. And if we break them down into these spaces of get to be angry, I need that to drive me. It's safe to feel that and to talk about it. And then to know that underneath anger is sadness. And I am sad because is a question we can always ask ourselves. So as we're moving out into our next week, I hope that you'll be able to take this observation and time to know that we fill our cup with our human experience of our world. And the work that we do in our world fills part of that cup. And it can refill the cup. It doesn't just have to empty it. And when we're doing work that's visible in the world and we have to, oh, thanks, Ryan. Yes, you feel disconnected at work when my colleagues and I don't relate on experiences. Yes. Well, the question would be, are those times when you have opened your heart and given your heart, and then what happens then? You feel, are there times that it makes you angry? And then can you ask, what do you make those backgrounds mean? And I love this because oftentimes when we don't see ourselves reflected in the people around us, it can be really hard to build up the energy of a person that gives to the world. And I think we're all giving to the world. So, what I'm asking of you this week is to know that when we're not getting that mirror back, that's for a way for us to go inside and say, I'm not getting that from what I need here. I need to look in myself and see what I need to get from myself so that then I can go and connect with them. And I love that. And I think that there are times, especially when we are working with people in groups for long amounts of time, we tend to take their mirror back and their reflection and feed our energy, especially if you work a 12-hour shift or an extended amount of time or vulnerable time with people. And what we do is we take their energy and it feeds us. But really, when we can relate to someone, then we like how we see ourselves in those moments. And what I'm asking you to build is liking seeing yourself without their feedback, building the way you see yourself, and then the connection changes. And we need that energy from people. But like I had mentioned in the beginning, we're at a place now where we have to take inspired action. And our action is to go and get what we need from the people around us and then reflect in ourselves so that then we can give a different energy out. And so reflecting on our socioeconomic space and what makes us sad about that, whether it can be many ends of the spectrum there. And so this hopefully gives you a safe jumping off point to say, I'm angry about this. And under my anger is a sadness. I'm sad because. I don't believe that we will ever be rid of wounds. They're not terminal. They're the wounds of living a human life. And they sit in our legs, in our feet, or in our lower belly. And as we ask these questions, if you will tap into energy of your body, You can notice them. I use my fingers like this because I notice this energy coming up in me. And when I'm sad, I can notice it come into my chest and into my heart and usually out my face. And that's what we want to invite. We want to get some of that relief, because I don't believe that these things leave us forever. They stay with us because our bodies and minds are amazing machines that remember things a certain way, and they're always with us. But it's how we've taken care of ourselves in these moments that allows us to counterbalance, to notice I'm sad. I'm also relieved because maybe I got to shed some tears. Maybe I got to, as I slept over the next few weeks, get some ideas, cognitive ideas and processing about what my body was experiencing, about me opening my heart, giving my heart, and then closing my heart, either closing it intentionally before someone said something or did something because I didn't have the bandwidth, or closing it because someone said something, did something, or something didn't go my way. Those two paths are really where the wounding comes from. And it's not bad. And we don't have to spend a lot of time on it. We just get to have a space or someone to talk to about how to use those two emotions. And hopefully, if you're a leader of people and you see this, that you'll then have some language. Peer support is giving someone the space to talk about the anger. We typically get afraid of anger because we think that it is about us, and anger is about how we see ourselves in a moment based on something that happened to us, based on an observation we made or a way that we took something. That doesn't make us wrong. It makes us human because we are taught that that feedback from other people is what creates our self-concept and our wellness and our place in the world. It's how we see ourselves in moments that create our experience. When we feel safe and loved, it's twofold. It's because that person has created that space for us, but we've also learned to see ourselves as safe and loved. And when we hold that space for ourselves of safe and love, when we hold that space of being angry and sad, those four things together, safe and loved, angry and sad, become the best energetic mix that we can have. Then your counterbalance is always there. And when safe and loved can be created in you, even if you're having anger and sadness, then you give back out to the world, and then you get more evidence. The way I think about this for someone like me, and maybe you can relate to this, is I'm a person that I can figure everything out for myself. I can do it myself. What I said when I was 3, my very first sentence. In a marriage that I've had for a long time, I feel safe and loved. And that's because initially we connected on safety and love. But where I can get into trouble is when I let my partner be responsible for that, when that's on me. Seeing myself, knowing that I feel safe and loved because I see myself, I've solidified that with my partner. And when I lose sight of safe and loved, maybe because of anger or sadness, and I expect that person to do it, my husband, and that's not his place. And so that's just growing and growing and growing, because I am supposed to be wounded in my work, in my relationships, in my relationship with myself all the time. And the important part is knowing I feel safe and loved when I see myself as safe and loved. I can feel sad and angry and sad, because sad's under angry, and safe and loved, and that is the best package. So that is really all I have for you guys today. I hope that you can feel my love for all of you and how important the people that come into my world are, because you're incredible. Your possibility is endless. And sometimes we just need someone to hold more belief and more possibility for us in times that are hard. And so when you're ready for that person, we can work together. So I hope this has helped you find a way to shed some tears, to have some relief so that it can go into your weekend with wonder and beauty. So I'll just pause for any last questions. And Ryan, I want to thank you for joining in person. That was so great of you. And I welcome any feedback on any of my socials or via email about any of this, because it is so true that I can be not clear and not concise. And I always want to be helpful, just like all of us. We want to be a teammate. We want to give. We want to show up. And so I hope this can help you have language for that and be vulnerable in your world. So thank you so much, and have the best weekend. All right. Thank you so much. Oh, thanks, Ryan. Thank you. All right.